Jeff, it's been a while since you've been here, and we've had a chance to sit down, but the team and the squad's been super busy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. It's good to be here again.
And FDA, let's jump right into it because everybody's been following Moon the whole time, and you guys keep on racking up more and more, wins with the FDA and more machines out in the field. So bring us up to speed.
Yeah, so we got started really in September of 2023 in the EU. That's when we got our CE mark and started getting some systems out there in an early pilot. And it was a fantastic experience, 2 sites, multiple systems, multiple users on each. And the experience that we had with the surgeons and the data we collected from that was incredibly insightful. In May of 2024, this year, we got the FDA approval and then started a similar activity where we started getting systems out in the United States. And to date, we've been able to do a large number of procedures, and the procedure mix is really interesting. I mean, about 2/3 are high volume procedures, cholecystectomies, hernia repairs, gastric sleeves, and then a real array of other procedures like hernias, esophagectomies, hemicolectomies. And it really speaks to this capability of the system to be broadly utilized across different procedures. And the surgeons, it's been fantastic watching them learn that and figure out how they use this new tool.
Invariably, you will have these super users or the sort of the curiosity with some of these surgeons, and I'm guessing they're coming to you, and I do want to hear some stories from the field. I'm guessing they're coming to you and saying, did you know that you can?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's and that's one of the best things about these early days, right? For instance, we had this discovery around nights and weekends. Laparoscopy is a team sport. You're dependent on all of these people around the operating table. And nights and weekends, a lot of the times, these are people you've never worked with. And so surgeons are a little skittish about that laparoscopic approach and will default to open. But with Maestro and the control that it brings to the surgeon so that they can engage all these instruments and manage them themselves, we've seen them actually take that laparoscopic approach instead of the open. And that was a complete discovery for us. So it was not something we had considered. And we have surgeons posting about it on LinkedIn and how it's helped out so much on nights and weekends.
What have been some of the other surprises since you've got the systems out in the market right now, and that you didn't expect to happen, but now you're pointing resources at that because that's a real benefit to the hospital or the ASC?
Yeah, and it really depends on the site of care. So talking with some academic medical centers, there's a lot of intrigue about how our system can help impact the learning curve around laparoscopy. And so that's something that one group is interested in studying and working on. We have another hospital that has challenges with staff to the point where they actually had to close down one of their operating rooms and send all of their cholecystectomies away to another hospital because they were like, we just don't have the staff to do it. And so they're looking at Maestro and bringing it in and putting it in this operating room and just doing solo cholecystectomies in it. And it's allowing them to recover that service line. And so it's experiences like these that have been amazing to watch. Another great example is one of our very first sites in Europe. We brought the system in, and we're very new at it and learning about how to talk about our system. And they got a little defensive and were like, "Is this thing going to take my job?" And slowly, after 100-something procedures, they really learned that this thing was fantastic. Right? It changed the environment in the operating room. It really changed the quality of life. They didn't have to support the surgeon and hold things in a very awkward position. And when we actually pulled that system out, because it was just a quick trial period, they got angry. They got really angry. And since then, that system has come back and purchased or ordered 2 systems under a commercial contract. So it's great to see these experiences.
It's great when you get that kind of traction and you don't have to sort of prod it to occur. It just naturally occurs. Has the ease of use that you imagined when you ideated the system and then built the early systems, has the ease of use been as big a benefit to the work team as well as the surgeon?
Yeah, I think so. We see people become autonomous with our system very quickly. We support it for minimal amount of time, typically only about 2 weeks, and then the teams are becoming autonomous and setting up the system on their own. We even have some surgeons that drape the system on their own and configure it. It's fast and quick. Overall turning over the system is less than 5 minutes, and it guides you along the way on how to do it. So I'm thankful for that, because it was one of the critical things that we wanted to get right. We spent a lot of time thinking about ease of use and designing in ease of use and not training to it. And we've seen that in the system's performance.
One of the things about the system that I had noticed, especially when I was out in California seeing it for the first time, is the system has an awareness about it that occurs in the OR.
Yeah.
And that data gathering has to have some sort of value. Early days, what is the value on that awareness that's created and capturing as much as possible?
Yeah. So, by providing this type of support and control to the surgeon, we've earned this privilege to be at the heart of the operating room, right next to the bed, right next to the patient. We are interacting with the surgeon. We can see where the instruments are. We understand what's going on inside the patient. And then we can visualize and understand the overall operating room. These are incredible inputs that we can bring into our system and do powerful things with to provide insights to the surgeons and the staff that allow them to improve things like workflow or operative planning, or just overall increase the efficiency of their system. So what we're doing with it right now is building a product called Maestro Insights. And this is a digital product that comes online towards the middle of next year. And we'll be able to provide these types of insights to the surgeons and the administrators so that they understand, here's the adjustments I might want to make to improve efficiency in that operating room.
When we talk about ORs, the early conversations were around Maestro is a great ASC tool. And it almost was, myself included, almost predicated to this is where we're going to put it. It's perfect for the ASC. And I think that's because the original benefit was small format, quick turn, low cost.
Yeah.
But not so much.
Not so much. And can we be successful in the ASC? Yes, absolutely. We have, ASC experience with our system. We've seen it not impact things like timing. We have seen the ability to allow shifting of staff and adjustments to the operative workflow. What is really interesting, though, is we do create value in lots of different settings. So when we look at outpatient procedures, hospital outpatient departments do about 80% of those outpatient procedures, right? It's not just ASCs, but these are parts in hospitals that thrive on that efficiency as well and are very focused on what adjustments can they make to actually optimize their performance. And those are environments that we thrive as well. They tend to be smaller operating rooms. They tend to be much more sensitive to staff fluctuations, including temporary staff. And so the ability to bring in predictability, stability, and control to the surgeons in those environments has been helpful.
It's exciting in the market to see this stratification of both technology,
Yeah.
as well as let's call it complexity or acuity of the case.
Yeah.
And this really looks like it serves pound for pound a sweet spot in that, and both complexity as well as speed.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. One of the things that we did is we looked at a list of minimally invasive surgery procedures and ranked it by complexity. So low complexity to high complexity. And when you map out things like which ones can be done in outpatient centers, which ones require that wristed instrumentation to be able to get in these far tight spaces and suture, what you see is it's really these complex procedures where you need that wristed instrumentation And typically these are reimbursed much higher, and they're much longer, and it makes sense to use complex equipment like a Da Vinci type of platform. And but when you look at these high volume procedures, that are order of magnitude more in terms of volume, a lot of them done in outpatient centers, whether it's an HOPD or an ASC, and they need to be supported in a cost-effective way, and also in a way that doesn't increase, the timing of that procedure. And so that's what we focused on with Maestro. How do we design a platform that accelerates and enhances the surgical experience in these procedures?
It back here because we're finally, whether it's in my endovascular robotics world and exposing the surgeon and the care team to radiation. And then we start talking about the musculoskeletal issues with these surgeons that they endure over years and years and years. And even some of these early emerging surgeons are hyper aware of that.
Yeah.
And saying, listen, I'm not going to subject myself to that. I watched what happened to Susie or Carl as they entered their 30th year. And I don't want to be there. So how does the platform affect that?
Yeah, there's a couple of key things there. One, the system holds on to two of the instruments for you in ways that humans can't. And so the arms might be in a very high overreaching space, and what that allows the surgeon to do is free up their workspace so that they can get the most ergonomic position for them. They don't have to manage the arms of other people, and they can optimize for what they need instead of thinking about, what is the assistant, how do I help keep them comfortable, because they're holding this heavy camera for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And so that's a key aspect of the system. The other is we've designed it so that the surgeon has control of that from the sterile environment. So if they're unhappy with anything, they can quickly, make adjustments of the arm, move it to a different place, roll it up, move it over, and free up that space for what they have. An excellent example is we have a surgeon that does complex procedures with our system, and longer procedures, right? 5, 6 hours. And sometimes he'll sit down. He'll lower the bed, the surgical table, really low. He sits down on a stool, and the system kind of goes down with him, and he's got this nice, comfortable operating position. And so the capability of the system to be configured in whichever way the surgeon wants it is key to be making it successful for any of these types of procedures and any of these surgeon preferences.
And I don't care how well trained a surgeon is, they endure a physical load that drains their cognitive load and decision making. And if you can remedy some of that and take some of that physical load off, no matter how well they've trained themselves, you're now being accretive to the available load that can go to a cognitive decision making process in the middle of surgery.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And it's one of those things where our surgeons have reported much less fatigue in post-operatively, but we also see it in the timing numbers that we're getting from these procedures. We liken it to driving a car. Today, laparoscopy is like driving a car, except you only have control of the steering wheel. Someone else is controlling your vision. Someone else is controlling the gas pedal and the brake. Maybe someone else has the indicator. It takes a lot of communication, a lot of coordination to get from point A to point B, right? It takes time. And with Maestro, that's not what you have. You have control over all of these things yourself. And so it's very efficient getting from point A to point B, and even reacting to things like when the car runs the red light in front of you. And that's the efficiency gains that we're seeing in our clinical experiences, and also why it has such a great impact in these HOPDs and these ASCs.
That's a powerful visual for me. Even though when my wife's in the passenger side, she might as well have her hand on the wheel. And obviously there's a brake on the floor that she's constantly pressing on because of my ability to run red lights, but I kid. So you talk about efficiency. Why is efficiency so important?
It's really important, especially in these high volume operating rooms, because it's really what enables them to keep the trains running on time and just get through all the procedures that they need to get through. When you look at the data, there was a great article in the American Journal of Surgery that showed the idle time, the wasted time in an operating room is 10 to 20%. And so when you aggregate that out over a month, it's over 200 hours. And so there's a lot of wasted time with these operating rooms, which are, your revenue streams that are sitting idle. And so how do you make better use of that? And that's really what some of the focus of Maestro Insights is how do we identify these opportunities so that you could streamline things and get better utilization out of the space and the staff and the time that you have.
So let's talk about the technology for a second, because you got a very powerful partner that's in the chassis.
Yeah.
By the name of NVIDIA. And I've been public saying I think the biggest player and biggest influence in medtech over the next few years out of any of the companies, medtech or not, is going to be NVIDIA in the future of medtech. What's that partnership been like, and why have they taken such a keen interest in Moon?
Yeah. They've been a fantastic partner, and we've worked with them over the past 2 years and supported them in the development of this HoloScan platform. And it's an incredibly powerful medical grade GPU that's in our system. And what we can do with that is all of these sensing capabilities, all this awareness that we have in the OR, we're able to bring that into that GPU, develop incredibly powerful algorithms that can provide not only insights in real time, but also those post-operative insights, right? Close the loop in the OR, provide that feedback, and give guidance on how to improve on a per procedure basis. We think about it often as going back to creating value in these high volume centers, which thrive on efficiency and are very sensitive to it. Being able to build and deploy the air traffic control center for the operating room. And when you think about an air traffic control center, it's do you build the air traffic control tower like over in the corner of the airport? Where it might be obstructed by the baggage claim area, right? Or there's a big hangar in the way and you can't see what's going on. You really need to make sure that the planes are coming in on time, the planes are leaving on time, that everything is flowing right. That is your job. And you can't do that from the corner or if there's big things in the way. But what Maestro has done is we've built that air traffic control tower right in the middle of the operating room, right? We have that privileged real estate that's there by the bedside, and we have the ability to bring all this information in so that we can deliver these insights on workflow improvements, how to optimize port placement, how to optimize configuration of your OR, how to optimize staff or scheduling. These are the types of things that we will be able to do with Maestro with that GPU and that sensing capability.
And that brings me to the term I've seen tossed about over the last 18 months or so in this digital surgery market, and surgery as a service.
Yes.
Because you're not just operating any longer with a platform like Maestro. You're actually providing a service more broad than putting an instrument in a surgeon's hand.
That's right.
So take me through that philosophy of surgery as a service.
There's a couple things. One, it's really about solving for access. Today, advanced technology can be very expensive for operating rooms to bring in. And when you go back to the number, about 30,000 operating rooms, that's a lot that are lacking this type of advanced equipment. And so how do you make it more accessible for them in a way that they can begin to equip all of these operating rooms? And that's where we focused on this surgery as a service. It allows hospitals to start to equip rooms very quickly without a lot of upfront capital expenditures. And it does it in a way that also allows us to deliver more value beyond just the system. So when we go back to the digital insights, right, Maestro Insights, being able to provide that to them so that they understand how to improve workflow. That's all baked into that surgery as a service and allows them to get more value beyond just the system.
And with all these stakeholders that finally these device manufacturers are understanding, especially on the digital side, you've got finance, you've got the CFO stakeholder, you've got the charge nurse, you've got the head of surgery, you've got the work team, you've got the surgeon, you've got the patient. That's an ROI that has to be addressed across a number of those stakeholders. How are you addressing that?
Well, surgery as a service is definitely part of it as well. Like when you look at the overall market, it is shifting to that. Intuitive, right, the market leader, they've built this industry for us. We see that in their numbers. Last year they placed, or last quarter, they placed 379 Da Vinci systems. 220 of those were under lease programs or utilization programs, right? So we see this evolution happening right now, and the future is going to be in these surgery as a service types of business models. That's one way we can create value for the administrator, because they are very sensitive to those upfront capital dollars. The other ways are around efficiency, going back to the capabilities of Maestro Insights and the capability of Maestro, enabling the adjustment of labor in that operating room, or enabling the ability for procedures to be more predictable, so that scheduling is more predictable. You're not pushing into overtime hours, you're not canceling procedures, right? It's all about contribution margin optimization for these procedures, and that's what the administrators really like about our system. For the surgeons, it's about that control and the confidence, right? Not having that fatigue at the end of the day, being able to control everything and have things situated exactly as you want, and as you're driving that car, getting from point A to B very efficiently.
It almost sounds like, if I'm looking at this, a Moon platform is one of the few that could cohabitate with the Da Vinci platform. Because as the market moves towards more of this stratification and management of complexity of cases, you might look at a case and say, no, I can do that on a Maestro system, and I don't need to do that on a Da Vinci system. And so this becomes, an accretive solution to an OR, to a hospital, to even an ASC made for that matter. Is that how you're viewing the market, or is just that how I'm viewing the market?
I would say that's absolutely right. There is these situations where it's about optionality and figuring out what are the procedures that make sense on the Maestro system, and what are the ones that really make sense for the Da Vinci system. The Da Vinci system is an amazing machine, right? It is designed to get these wristed instruments to these far tight places and suture and deliver control to a surgeon in those situations. But the question is, for these high volume procedures where you don't need that wristed capability, does it make sense for that platform? Or does it make sense for something that's a little more streamlined and helps you speed things up and keep things predictable, because that's what that operating room needs to be successful.
Yeah, and it's nice to see the industry and the category go from being binary of, okay, it's either a surgical robot or not, right? And now we've got other options coming out in the market right now, and that's really look where Maestro ends up is, I can't afford 2.5 million, but I can certainly afford and want to elevate my digital solution on a Maestro type platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Optionality, it's key. We have optionality in most things in our life, right? We have the simple car for driving around, and we have the fancy car that we might want to drive on the weekends. Or we have, nice restaurants that we want to take our wife to, and then we have the restaurant that we take our toddlers to, right? Optionality is important because there's different situations where you need different things.
Yeah. So the success of Moon to date has been pretty impressive. The organization was started in 2021. I'm going to guess you're constantly fundraising, right? As an emerging tech company would. I wouldn't even call you a startup anymore. I'd call you an emerging tech company, and I do differentiate those. What does the next 12 to 24 months look like in regards to the development of the market, development of the system, and what are the goals?
Yeah, it has been a fast period of time, right? 2021, when I look back at that, it's a great team that we had there in the early years of Moon. Anne Osdoir, our CEO, did a great job constructing that team and leading us. And we really pushed the boundaries of what we could do. We built out 2 system designs in parallel. One was our first in human system that we took to human clinical trials and got FDA approval on that. And then in parallel, we were building our commercial system, and we used both for a very long time. But what was incredible about that experience is the amount of knowledge and experience that we gained through that process that we were able to roll into our first product, the Maestro commercial system. And where we're at now is we're just at the start of our activities outside the U.S. in the EU, and as well as in the U.S. And we are, very excited to watch the growth of these systems and the utilization of the surgeons. We have some sites now that are doing 50 to 60 cases a month. It's incredible. And, just watching that growth in that experience space has been fantastic. In terms of the overall company, we do plan on getting to a point where we're launching this Maestro Insights product. And again, this is that digital dashboard, the operating room, operating system of the operating room that helps coordinate these types of activities in mid of 2025. And then we have a focus on other capabilities beyond that leverage more and more of those advanced AI capabilities.
So what is Win going to look like for the Moon team when we say we're inside the 2-minute drill, right? This is, I think you and I are living through what I think is going to be probably the initial vintage of surgical robotics outside of Da Vinci. You and I are watching it now, and it's fun to be part of it. What does Win look like for Moon Surgical when you say, okay, we've done our job now? What does that look like?
That is a good question. And I could tell you what Win looks like for me. And for me, it is a sticky product that a surgeon wants to use every day for nearly all of their procedures. And it's something that they can't put down, that really brings them joy and is a critical tool in their laparoscopic tool belt. If we see this utilization, hit marks of 75, 80% for most of our surgeons, that's what Win looks like to me.
Awesome. Well, Jeffrey, I appreciate your time. I'm glad you came down to the warm weather. We were just commiserating on what it's like to be in Connecticut in the winter. So it's good to have you down here, and congratulations to you and the team over at Moon.
Thank you so much, Joe, for having me.
Always. I'm Joe Mullings from 160 Studios. Be well.